Welcome everyone to this Thursday Critique Hour. Let's start off with a bit of announcement. With a little bit of Let's try that again. Welcome everyone. Let's start off with some announcements. Portrait Studio is still on sale if anyone's interested in buying it. It will stay on sale until this whole COVID thingy goes down. I usually do a sale in the spring, and I mean the sale in the start of January, and then no sale until June. But because everything is kind of crummy right now and everything is poopy, I've just kept the sale going on. It's good for you guys. It's good so that it's affordable and that you guys can still get your studies in. But during this time where financial stuff is a little bit more difficult, and for those who wanted to use their indoor time, the quarantine time to do studies, Portrait Studio is on sale so that you can grab it and work on it and not feel like you just spent $100 on something on a program, not spent like 10 hours of minimum wage to buy it. It's 50% off at the moment. It will stay 50% off until the quarantine is over, just to, for something for those who want to use it to study. But it's really weird that I've had the sale on for 3 months already. I've never done this before, ever. I've never had it on sale price for half a year. But I plan on it. Just, it's crazy. It's crazy times. Why not? Everything's gone topsy-turvy. And then we have community stuff. So if you want your stuff handed in to get into the critique queue, which is the folder that I just throw a bunch of the stuff I want to look at, from studies to 14-day challenges to portrait studies to illustrations. You guys can hand those in to the Reddit community. To get to it, just go to istebrak.com and join the Reddit community. It's just a little Reddit robot icon right here. This is our subreddit. This is where I pick stuff up for critique. This is where you can submit all your work for critique, and based on the topic that I want to pursue that day, I will choose stuff that is similar in nature, and critique it on live stream. And that's it, really. If you want to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I post memes daily. You want to follow me on Snapchat as well. I post silly little filter selfies and memes there. Some announcements too. Sometimes I post my favorite before and afters of the week on Snapchat. Just the favorite stuff that I saw that week. If you take notes, you can get my brushes for free. My brushes are on the store. You can get, sometimes if the notes are really good, you can get the whole bundle for free on the store. And it's a $40 value, but if you write some good notes, like the notes we saw this week by Emmanuel, he won some brushes. His notes are amazing. I love this little bit at the end. The epiphany of the class, everything taught to us is one core fundamental. Lighting leads to directing, which leads to cinema, to framing, to composition, to character, to acting. It's all just one big circle. So that's, in his opinion, the epiphany of the day, and it was a pretty big moment too. But if you have notes style you want to do, I like this format, but if you guys have a format of your own, upload it. You'll get a reward. Not every single person who uploads it gets one. It's just the best of that week, or some of the best of that week. But I just love that whole epiphany of class format. Love that. I'd love to see what you guys think is the epiphany of the class. It's really your personal epiphany. Everyone's epiphany is different. I know last class, one person's epiphany was that they didn't really put two and two together before, and they just didn't think of folds and fabric like mini little mountains. That was cute. I remember that moment. Love to see what you guys share in your notes, what you think the epiphany is, even if you are not doing it to win brushes. It's still just a great way to help retain information and build your skill, and keep on keeping on. You know what I'm saying? Let's get on with today's session. Um, so some of the pieces I want to look at, I'll choose later, but I do want to start with a form study. So let's talk about organic form studies and why we do them. Form studies they're a mandatory part of your regimen. They're a mandatory part of your diet. They're exceptionally just pivotal. They really change the way you think, and in turn change the way you study. They maximize your efficiency of brush use. They maximize your knowledge without having to do a variety of form study, or Object studies are still lifes. Form studies are the Istebrak community of still lifes version of still life, right? So when you're an artist, remember back in the day when we used to be in art class, you gotta do your still life. Still lives help you improve. Basically, a form study is a still life, and it is one really, really great way to get all of that stuff out of the way. And by stuff, I mean, when do I shrink my brush? When do I enlarge my brush? What brush do I use? That's the stuff that you learn when doing a still life. And everybody hates still lifes. Everybody hates dealing with them. They are boring. They're annoying. Oh, I'll just choose an orange and put it beside the vase and put a couple of leaves, and I will put a unusual shape right here beside it, and I'll do it in charcoal on a whatever the heck that stupid whatever newsprint, and it was just chaos. It was hell. I learned nothing. And I did not, it's not efficient. But imagine that vase, instead of it being a vase, you have a sphere or a cylinder. That orange, you just have a basic sphere. That bowl, you have a flat organic shape. That little pyramid or that little whatever it was is just a basic old pyramid. You get rid of color because color is a distraction. And you focus on specifically what the light is doing in that shape, in that nature, in the nature of that shape. And that's how you learn how to do radial shading. That's how you perfect their blending. That's how you know how to manage an edge and maintain an edge. That's how you know what background color to use. So form studies are still life. I hope I haven't ruined form studies for you just because I called it that. But that's technically what they are for those who feel like they're missing out on the fine art world when they're studying at home and they did not pay 80,000 a year for art school, and they're wondering how to make up for the amazing education that they would have had at an art school. Notice my sarcasm. Um, yeah, it's just a still life, and it's a really, really smart, efficient way to learn how to move values on a surface and how to invest volume into a two-dimensional object with a two-dimensional medium, which is what we do when we paint here. We don't have a 3D modeling program. We have to invent the light. We have to bring in the light. We have to fake it. Sorry about this lasso job. I'm just having the hardest time separating the background from the object. Okay, so for all those who are thinking, oh, one day I'll do form studies. No, you do form studies today. All right? You do that today and you get better at knowing when to shrink your brush, knowing when to... Give me a second here. I'm just on autopilot mode with the talking. I hate talking and lassoing at the same time. Okay. Mother of... You know what? Really? Really? How is it so difficult? I don't understand how this is so hard to select. I don't know why it's giving me such a hard time. I keep choosing the wrong stick. Alright, it's okay, guys. Everything's gonna be okay. Okay. So we're gonna separate this motherfucking background from the object, and we're gonna get on with our lives. Okay, so I've you have two options. It seems like you have some kind of like fireplace type lower light candle maybe. And what we try to do is we try to envision every subject into its object version. The form study is the object. It's the singular, it's the nondescript, it is the scientific, the lab environment version of the future label object. So this could be a woman with her shoulder and a nearby floating orb, or, or this could be a cat, and you know what I'm saying. So it eventually it will evolve into its shape as your brushes shrink. You start investing character and subject. But what you're perfecting right now when you do a form study is how to see the light, how to prioritize the light, how to prioritize structure. So form studies teach you how to prioritize light and structure. Write that back to me. So you have two options. You can either lighten the background or darken the background. Darkening the background looks good as well, but it's two different light environments. Don't do a background like this because you're not on either shore and it makes no sense, and you have this deletion of the far side of the shape, so might as well just cut the shape off there. The core shadow should not be darker than the whole room or lighter than the whole room unless there is some diffusion. This makes sense because this ball right here is diffusing on this. And the light is weak. A weak light is a sharp light, like a spotlight or a candle, because it's all of its power is being sent off in that momentary burst of light. Whereas with the sun, yeah, if the closer we get to it, the more immense the light is. But we're at a point where there's enough bounce light in the universe around us. I mean, in the surfaces around us in our environment. So one big thing that you did wrong with your form studies, so there's two types of form studies. You have geometric form studies, which are polygonal. There's no blending. It's just a big, squarey polygonal shape. All you got to do is decide on the flat value of every surface. There's no blending. Ideally, write this back. Ideally, there is no blending in a polygonal form study, in a geometric form study. The point was only to know what the background value is and to drop with the fill tool, to drop in Paint Bucket all of the best values you can for each surface area, be it a prism, be it a cube, be it a rectangular prism, whatever it is. However, the more complicated form study is the one where you have to blend and do all the form study business, which is know exactly what value to use and where the light source is and how strong the light source is. So the blending aspect, that's how you train your blending. That's how you know when to shrink your brush and when to enlarge your brush, when to change the opacity. This is where you're learning how to paint technically, is this kind of form study. So look at how much talking has gone into just a basic form study. That's how important they are. So you did one big thing wrong, which is you just cut off certain area. This is a gradual surface. Imagine a car traveling on this surface, right? It doesn't notice any major changes in the surface. There's no immediate bumps, there's no cliff, there's no crazy off-road texture. It's just a really, really smooth ride. So the light has the same kind of smooth ride. Imagine the light is the car in this case. The light will have the same kind of smooth ride, meaning that it will transition slowly from dark to light. And you just have this really annoying sudden cut that I have to amend here. And I'm using soft brush. So you use soft brush when doing organic form studies. You use soft brush when you're polishing your paintings, be they reference or no reference. You have to use soft brush. You have to learn how to use soft brush. Write that back. So this is more of a technical class today, the technical stuff. Every artist knows how to use soft brush. Every digital artist has to learn how to use it. It's very easy. I mean, yeah, it seems very basic. No, duh. It's just a soft brush. It's easy. It's foolproof? No, it's not. It's actually non-proof. It's not foolproof. There's a letter of like a little warning, caution on the soft brush, not for idiots. Okay, you know those little things that we get on those electrical cords? Not for all ages. Not for all skill levels. Be careful. Use caution. Ages 5 and up. That's what the soft brush should come with. The soft brush is so easily abused. It is overused. It is not the right tool to use if you don't know how to adjust your opacity as you use it. It can give you way too much paint way too fast. Climb your values up way too fast. Regardless of the nature of the volume of the surface you're representing, it can severely damage all your contrast irreversibly. So you have to basically restart the shape you're doing because you just jumped around too much. All of a sudden you're black, all of a sudden you're light, and you have no grays. It's such a beautiful, soft looking brush, but it can cause so much damage because it is not foolproof. Absolutely 100% not foolproof. And that's why we use soft brush. That's why we do organic form studies, still lifes, let's call them now. And actually, let's not call them that. And that's why that's why we work the way we do with these brushes. That's why we're so cautious. That's why we study. That's why we're all here today. because there are nuances to this practice that are just not, you're not gonna know until someone tells you that soft brush is an evil. Like when you started watching Tiger King and you thought Carol Baskin was a sweet little lady, and then you discovered she's the Wicked Witch of the West. And then you're just like, I don't even know anything anymore. I'm like the worst judge of character. Okay? Haha, I'm so relevant to space media. So what I just did just now is represented with the slow, gradual change of value. I represented the outside. So even if you have these really wonky shapes in your form studies, every single change in these surfaces is a new gradual step in either the light or the dark, depending on where your light source is. Depending on where your light source is a common phrase in this class. You will always hear it, depending on where your light source is, depending on, because everything depends on where your light source is. All right? Yeah, I thought she was a nice little old lady. I was like, oh, she's so cute. Turns out she killed her fucking husband. Okay, so let's get back to the subject matter at hand. When the light is coming from beneath, this is in front of this object, so automatically we have a cast shadow. And the cast shadow can range, like it doesn't have to be a perfect cut off at this. It's just that you placed this edge right where there should be a cast shadow ending. So now we have a stop in the value where there is a corner, which makes it annoying. You don't want to sync everything together, a corner with the stop of a cast shadow. There's a tangent, so we don't want to mess around with. This surface here is getting a little bit of light bounce from this surface. And then, so this is how I do when I do form studies. I just basically talk out what I'm thinking when I look at the form study. Everyone can interpret a form study differently, because they just see different ways to interpret the volume, the z-axis of that form study. So who knows, maybe there's a big bump right here and it wasn't visible in the outline of the volume. And that's okay. All right, this surface right here is going to cast some bounce light. And so look at what's happening. What are some of the things we're noticing? We're zoomed out, our brush is big. We're asking where the light source is. Ah, so beautiful. These are the beautiful noises that an artist well on their way to becoming professional sounds. These are the noises they make, right? This is the music of, of an artist. You're asking the right questions, you're making the right decisions, you're problem solving. So form studies are an opportunity to learn how to be a problem solver, and art is problem solving. Write that back. When we are faced with a reference and we just have to transfer that information back to our piece, okay, that's not so much problem solving. It is to a certain extent, but that at that point is just reading. You're reading your references form language. The problem solving that is unique to form studies is that you made up a shape that has no label to it, that you can't lean on to a shape label to help you render. It's not an eye that you've etched in. If you want to be better anime artists, hybrid, realistic, halfway in, do form studies. You want to be a better photorealist artist, do form studies. You want to be a better oil painter, do form studies. It is just the basic physics that is what we are as observers of light on form. It is learning how to be a 3D modeling program at the same time. It is learning how to invest volume into a shape. So look at this three-dimensional shape, and I'm not even done with it yet. All right, look at this three-dimensional shape. And I'm going to think about where these pockets are. All right, I'm going to think about how, one section is in front of the other section. So I'm going to cast its little shadow here, this little pocket shadow, but in a new layer, I'm going to just throw Carol Baskin even looks like the soft brown. What the hell am I talking about? Excuse me. So see what I'm doing here is I'm trying to find the bounce diffusion here that's in front of this part. It's all problem solving. And we've given ourselves an opportunity to solve this problem that we've presented by attempting or lassoing out the shape, the silhouette shape of this form study. And then from there we're learning how to sculpt from nothing into something by applying light, by shedding light on the object, and let there be light. Now we have an object. It's just a beautiful way to do the difficult thing that is art. It's just a really, really great way to make it easy. And that's what a lot of you kind of report back to me about my teaching style. You make it all so easy. You make it easy to grasp. You make it all really easy. And that's because it's logic. I mean, it's logical to strip color, to strip subject, so that you can understand something's true nature. Isn't that what philosophy is as well? You know, you're trying to figure out the most common denominator, the most common way to look at something, the most superior, most way to finalize or simplify. And simplifying doesn't mean make it kindergarten friendly. No, this is some of the hardest stuff that you'll venture into because you're teaching your brain you're rewiring your brain when you're learning how to draw. That's why it's so hard to draw. That's why it's hard to get things going and get your skill where you want it to be, because you're teaching your brain how to do something it doesn't know how to do. So it is the most logical next step to remove color, to strip the subject matter and boil it down to its most basic shape. And there's only so many shapes you have to learn. There's spheres, cylinders, a couple of cubes, and a pyramid. And you're set for life. And if you know how to do these on command, you will be able to read every reference. So it's like everything can be fixed with a form study, and it's no emotional attachment. You don't have to tell a story. You don't have to write anything. You can just watch TV while you're doing a form study. You don't have to do that yet, not in the first couple, because you're just trying to problem solve. But as you get better, you learn how to shrink your brush. You learn how to control your edges. You know how to cast shadows. You think about the space around the form study as a room. You know how to stay zoomed out. I mean, if I zoom out, I can see my core shadow here is weak as F. Right, it's really weak. I need to fix that. And I'm going to shrink this brush. And then just adjust the degree of darkness there. Another danger of soft brush is you never know how much you're actually bleeding out the value where it doesn't belong. The fuzziness hides a lot, so it's really, really sneaky. Just like Carol Baskin. Yo, she might sue me if she finds out. She's crazy like that. She'll actually try to sue me for talking about her. As far as I'm concerned, for everyone involved, Carol Baskin is a fictional character that I saw in a Netflix non-docu-series, fictional mock-series. Okay? A mockumentary. Alright. And then there is just radial shading, which is this beautiful, efficient way of bringing in paint while blending at the same time. What do you mean, Istebrak? Well, I mean this. Pure white, normal brush mode, low opacity. While I'm introducing the paint, as someone says, I remember one time you showed the soft brush bleeding with a different color and I didn't touch the soft brush for months. I'll show that in a second again, just because I want to scare everybody. So when we lay in the first layer of paint, we can hardly see it because the opacity is very low. Second layer, ooh, this is auto blending. I never needed to blend, because if I start going back and forth with this super white valley, that's when I'm going to get zero information. Grays are information, and so that's where we end up, making mistakes because we introduce too much value too soon. When we lower the opacity for radial shading, we auto blend. Alright, so I'm choosing a value here, and let me actually just choose the value you had. Crud. That's okay. So I'm gonna just darken it, whatever. And low opacity, high feed. Let's go full black. And we're laying the paint as we shrink. Everybody watch. Brush number one. This is too low for me. Brush number one, number two, number three, number four, five, six. We're blending as we go. So I don't like going into too much into 5 and 6. I like just leaving it a minimal amount. We're doing the same thing with the highlighter. And now I get to just ease up on my low opacity. I have all of my paint where I need it. Everything's auto blended. I'm just polishing. Right, so we auto blended and then quick little bounce light in the back. Same thing, I don't like doing it only with the shadows. Same thing with the soft brush. Usually I do it the other way around. I don't block in the shadows. I don't radially shade in the shadows. I have a flat shadow value and climb out. Now this is my favorite thing to do about radial shading. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it auto blends as you go along. All right. That's the beauty of soft brush. But also can be very dangerous when in the hands of a noob. And a noob is it's not skill set. A noob is a mental state. A noob is a state of mind. I'm going in and I'm just going to have me some fun. All right? That's the sound you hear when a noob is approaching. When a noob is in the nearest proximity. It's good to have fun. But when you look at your art and you were just told your skill is not where it's supposed to be by a commissioner you applied to, your friends tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to work on that. You look at your art 5 minutes later after walking away and you're like, fuck my life, I hate what I'm looking at. You equate your skill level with your inner self and your inner worth, and you're wondering why you're not getting better. You haven't improved in 2 years, but you managed to get diamond twice every league season. It's a state of mind. You're not accepting the fact that there's a certain degree of non-fun involved in the amount of work. And I love how people say, if you're not having fun, just don't do it. Well, what if my definition of fun is leaning on my ignorance? What if I'm an idiot, and the way an idiot has fun is very different from the way an intellectual has fun, right? So a smart person having fun is different from a dumb person having fun. A baby having fun is different from an adult having fun. What if my version of fun, and I'm pursuing fun, is actually limiting and inhibiting my ability to become a smarter person? Why do I need to become a smarter person? Well, if you don't want to be a smarter person, stop doing what you're doing. But we all want to be smarter. We all want to be better. So our definition of fun, should I be looking for, is fun really my priority right now? Until I get better, at least until I grasp some level of volume in my work, I have no business pursuing fun. I have no business looking for fun. So maybe your definition of fun, this self-help kind of everybody's good no matter what they do, new age, pat on the back mentality of getting better and achieving our inner selves. This new age way of saying, if you're not having fun, oh, I'm not having. It's mostly out of the comments that I get. Oh, you're too strict. Oh, you're too mean. Oh, you're a bitch. You know what? Go ahead and have fun and stay dumb. It's not helping. It's not affecting my life. It's definitely hurting yours. They're hurting your pocket, your financial stability, your dreams, your goals. So I'm sorry, it's not going to be fun to do form studies first, and then you're just going to have fun. You can do them while talking, and then wow, holy crap, I just did great with this photo reference piece. This looks great. You know what? Let me start applying for commissions again. I'm starting to look much better. My form studies look great. My commissions are going up. Hey, I'm richer. Hey, I can afford this new phone. Wait a second. This is all only possible because at one point or another in my past, I adjusted my definition of fun, and I just said, shut up, I need some discipline, and I'm going to do some form studies. And this is not a hocus pocus fantasy mythological timeline. This actually happened to me. I started taking my form studies seriously. I started taking the sciences and what I did seriously, and I got richer for it. It's not it's not a fake timeline. It's not a fake story. This will happen for you if you start taking your ingestion of information more seriously. All right? No, they're not necessarily the maths of art because math is very abstract and difficult to connect to the real world. Whereas form studies are exactly what the real world are in the definition of real world in this scenario, which is subject, object to subject. This will one day be a shoulder. This will one day be a chin or a cheekbone. This will one day be a brow line. This will be a pearl. This will be an ankle or a knee. This will be a character, parts of a character that you draw. This will be some kind of armor plate. This will be, anything that you're going to name it. A form study shape is equivalent to it. And if you study the core shape, ideally your fundamentals are intact, right? So it's sculpting, and you used basic values to sculpt an advanced globular gradual surface area. You used flat values to assign the volume, which did not work. Your background value was not adjusted to represent the light environment, probably a word not in your vocabulary as of yet. So today's class was like a technical assessment of, what are we actually doing? Are we learning how to paint the flesh of a thing, the content of a thing? Are we applying content to this thing? The light source is a bit different. It's more intense than the before. So if you wanted to have a more intense light source, you can do so. I'm just being even with my grays just because I don't like promoting too much contrast for students. But if it is darker, it's more intense a light source, it's a nearby candle, then we will have sharper interruptions. Just more contrast, basically, is all I'm bringing in. I'm no longer diffusing. And I'm trying to cast a shadow of this shape on top. And then, of course, if it is a darker light source, it's a weaker light source. So, if it's a darker room, it's a weaker light source. So we're darkening the scene so it looks more like a candle casting this. And even then, it's still not exactly a candle. We still need a little bit less gradual value, a little less bounce light. But I never ever recommend black background, like a candle lit. Let's look up the reference images. So that candles and small light sources have a way of blacking out anything that the light can't reach because it's weak and over-representing the volume here. We do have some nice grays here, but do you see what I mean? I don't recommend this for your form studies. I recommend a universal light source, something open, maybe half dim room. Definitely not this for your first try. It's not a universal light environment that helps you create universal scenes, and that's my recommended. Excuse me. You're the first teacher I had who didn't have that do whatever you want to do, beautiful snowflake, everyone a special mentality that I hated in school. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Thank you, Lighthouse. Okay, fine. Form studies are the physics of art then. Yeah. Exactly. Physics makes more sense because it's the practical, it's the way things are, matter. All right. So let's move on. Instead of all the technicals, the science, the backdrop, the lab environment, let's go to a field experience, which is a actual painting that happened in time, and we're gonna fix stuff about it. So now we're dealing with framing and composition and storytelling and cinema and camera and character, and oh my gosh, it's no longer one little form study, but every single one of those things that I just listed is made of a form study. So the form study is the atoms from which everything is made. So we have a really, really strong moonlit light source, which is technically, if this was the moonlit light source and it's coming from the far end, we should have a really, really severe cutoff point where the what's illuminated in this moonlit scene. Alright, so I gotta put my glasses back on. Alright, so this makes more sense, right? Right here we have a limit, and it actually just all around seems to be a really great edit. Excessive exposure makes no sense. There was no universal color, which there should have been, so I added that blue of the environment color to the darken that I apply. So there should be some kind of universal wash. And then she's got her glowy sword, which will bring in a secondary glow. But we can't just, I mean, obviously, yes, this is what we should do, but we can't, you know, from an artist's perspective, they're not going to paint the whole painting and then throw on one of Istebrak's darkened layers to control a light environment, right? Not every artist is going to work in this order. They're going to start and they're going to end the painting, and then the last paintbrush is the last one they do. They're not going to go back and critique themselves this way. So how do we build better scenes? How do we prepare and darken from the get-go? How do we do that? Form studies. Okay, you need to know the kind of environment you're painting. It's a dark scene with one major light source. Ding, 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 ding. That means that I have a limit to what I can show, and unless there is an equally stronger opposite flame nearby, which is perfectly acceptable. I mean, go for it. Make a flame happen nearby, but it has to be secondary. It can't be this dominant monster flame that will counter the bloom. You put the moon in the painting for a reason. It has a role to play in what is happening in the storytelling. That moon builds like a mood. So now we have some secondary light here to cancel out, you know, and show us some of those flames. We have some light here, not too much, definitely not enough to cancel out the moon as the primary. We still have a lot to do with the moon. For instance, we have some glare on the helmet. We have some dodge tool, necessary spike in the contrast for metallic surfaces. That might be too much. Okay, and then we have a problem, which is the general gesture, which I'm having a lot of trouble wrapping my head around. So let me open up Portrait Studio and just try to duplicate this gesture. Okay. Okay. So what I want to do is carry this leg out. It's just that I want to make it not, not look awkward. So we need this leg out this far forward because she's walking and she just tossed off her shawl, and now they're in trouble now. She's gonna kick their ass now, and this leg has now emerged out of the cast shadow of her skirt and is going to catch some of that moonlight, which is great for the piece because the lower part of her legs looked kind of lost. Okay, so she's thrown her leg out. And then there's a bit where the cast shadows start just there. Not seeing the comments yet, but if you guys have any questions, just ask them with @Istebrak so I can see them. And then in the layer beneath, the other leg is behind, but I'm still going to try to get this gesture out on Portrait Studio just so I can test it. So now she looks like she's really taking a large stride forward. And she'll look a bit more like a soldier, like a warrior, like an athletic, you know, instead of just posing there with a dress on like Miss Universe or something. She'll look like she's ready for a fight. I'm not sure if they are boots, like the top of the high boots or something, but the whatever's happening in this area here, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm just trying to match what's happening. And just find the crotch, because it feels like her torso goes on forever. And then there might be a bit of a bump here, just where the stomach is. Even in an athletic person, we still have that bump there. And then we have a cutoff right here where the kind of that V movement down into the... So now we just placed in some basic anatomy. The other shoulder is non-existent, which is not acceptable because that means we deleted the hand. So really, I just think you should get rid of the sword, or make the sword glow somewhere else, or do something else with the sword. And it's okay that the scene is this dark. It's acceptable. You're painting a nighttime scene, and there's a bunch of flames and embers everywhere, and a triumphant warrior in the midst of it all. You don't have to paint daytime value just so we can see the triumphant warrior. The fact that they're the only ones in the battlefield is doing enough for the story. You don't have to excessively over-represent the character, which we saw last class with that overexposure when it comes to all of that. So let me just quickly pose it. Yes. Yes. Models, add figures, female. Alright, so I need to constantly jump back and forth to where she was standing. Let me get the on-screen controls. I'm going to try to sculpt her so that we don't have that Dutch angle. So she just threw off something. This leg is all the way behind, so I'm pressing E to shift the joint back. And then when we're walking, our legs kind of go forward a little bit, and they just kind of tilt inward. You got to change the angle to get the right joint movement. Alright, so she looks like she's walking. I'm just going to look at the walk all the way around. There you go, and the feet are right where they're supposed to be, so that's good. And then she has a sword. Ideally, that sword is, dragging her arm down. We want to make it look like an organic gesture, so we shift that down. It is a heavy sword by the way you depicted it. Alright, and then, but it's not so heavy it's moved her arm completely out of the shot. And then there is some kind of I don't think there is a field of view. And she just threw that. This looks great for throwing off the shawl off her, or whatever that thing is, that half cape. She just threw it off. So her hand is kind of just like that, and then we have the head tilted forward as if like it's more sort of a predatory forward motion. And I kind of, instead of doing it with the head, I kind of want to tilt the whole shoulder forward. Okay, and then just flatten that along the ground, and that just feels like she's taking one really strong stride. And you can tilt this foot so it kind of really feels like she's walking, Some people's feet just tilt outward before they take a step down. There are other things you can do with the torso, but they're not necessarily pin-up. Every painting we draw is sort of like a pin-up, but we do have a rotation in the torso here. The camera is lower. You want the camera to be higher. You're going to be looking at a different exposure for the head and shoulder area. typically the reason why the head is close to the, we want to see the neck in this stride. It's just a model catwalk. Basic thing, most boiled down to, it's a model catwalking. But she has these pauldrons. I don't know what they're called. Are these shoulder pads on? So they're getting in the helmet. So they're bringing the neckline and the jawline and the shoulder line closer together. But remember, you're not posing with the armor on. You're posing with it off. But for the sake of the attitude while she's walking, you can tilt the body forward and tilt the head up as if she's like kind of like really charging forward. Okay, and that will help close the distance between. I don't recommend that because I feel like in any pinup and any major female empowerment type of thing, that spine's got to be straight. It's got to be powerful. It's got to be athletic. Okay, so even if we tilt that arm like all the way back, it's still not enough for it to completely disappear. All right, and then I would move the head back forward because it's just really beautiful to have that. And then we increase the depth of field or field of view, which means that we're gonna have that. See that? It feels like we're inside the environment. That foot is far away. This is close up. Where if we were to reduce the depth or the field of view, it's kind of everything's happening all the way over there. We're not involved. But the field of view involves us because it gives that kind of lens, real-time lens distortion thing, which you might need for a painting. If you did a good job building your references, that is, which is why we invented Portrait Studio, because it helps. It helps make all this possible. Okay, so the arm is visible, absolutely big problem there. The hand is great, but you should throw those wings in the back a little, unless you're trying to show off. Wings are the most cheesy thing in the world, and as a designer, I feel like a folded wing is so much more cool than an open wing because it's just the open wing has been used so freaking much in designs. It just looks cheesy to me now. So the folded wing looks cooler now than an open wing. And then open wing is just gonna eat up the canvas. Oh, it's a wing. Who gives a shit? Fold it. Do something new. Do something different. Yeah, everybody's got wings. People got tattoos of wings. People draw wings on everything. People put wings on everything. It's cheesy. It's overdone. Do something different with it, and don't let it eat up your canvas. All right. And the worst part about wings I've ever freaking seen, I'm getting so passionate about it, is that you guys don't even look up references for the types of feathers in the wings, where the little ones are, where the big ones are, and how they all layer up. Everybody wants to draw wings until it's time to look up a reference for wings. So just remember that. Okay. So just small changes, really similar to what we had last class. Just dimming the scene, applying some control over the contrast, and just thinking about a more believable gesture for this warrior whose legs were together. Why? And there was no perspective, so that's why I think the field of view, it just looks great. And when you're trying to show off a super mighty character walking towards you. Yep. Just like that. Dragons with wings that wouldn't be able to withstand their weight severely trigger me. So that's it for today's class. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm sorry I started a little bit later than usual. To submit stuff for Critique Hour, to do your form studies and submit them to the class, to submit your notes so that you can win some free brushes, my personal custom brushes. Join us on Reddit and submit your work. If everybody on Reddit joined as a $1 patron, I really would not have to worry about YouTube not sending notifications, YouTube not monetizing my videos, YouTube not or partners or agencies or marketing or anything like that, or monetization. If everybody just joined as $1, I really wouldn't need to promote Patreon ever again. It's just a way to give back to your community, and it's a low impact way, hopefully low impact way to join as a patron, and you can do so by going on Patreon. There's different tiers, and you can get assignments every month handed out to you guys. Um, and that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Portrait Studio can be purchased on my store at istebrak.com as well for anyone who's interested in that. I will see you guys on Tuesday, the 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you everyone for coming today. I love you guys very much. And I'll answer questions next time. I'm sorry. I didn't see the questions. And I gotta hop off. I'm not feeling too well. And thank you everyone for your support, for all the comments. Anywhere that you guys find me and comment, love and support. I love you guys so much. I really think you guys, your prayers and stuff, I think that is and your well wishes, I think that's what got me through. For a really long time, I honestly, I forget I do Critique Hour. Oh yeah, I'm the person who runs Critique Hour. I honestly forget. And when you guys tell me that, all of this has not been for naught, that it's actually impacting your lives, it gives my life meaning. So I just needed to say that before I hop off. Thank you everyone for your support. You guys are amazing.